The fluorescent lights overhead cast an eerie glow on the rows of humming machinery and sterile workstations that lined the laboratory. Kael, a skilled warrior, navigated the narrow aisles with ease, their eyes scanning the room for any signs of trouble. Their mission was to infiltrate the high-security facility and gather intel on the top-secret project codenamed Eclipse. As they turned a corner, a figure emerged from the shadows, and Kael's heart skipped a beat. It was Lyra, their former comrade in arms, who had been presumed dead after a disastrous mission gone wrong. Lyra's eyes locked onto Kael's, and for a moment, they just stared at each other, the tension between impalpable. Kael's mind reeled as they struggled to process the mix of emotions that threatened to overwhelm them. They had thought Lyra was dead, and the grief had been a heavy burden to bear. Now, here she was, standing in front of them, very much alive. Lyra's expression was guarded, but Kael could see the faintest glimmer of warmth in her eyes, a spark that hinted at the deep bond they had once shared. As they stood there, frozen in time, the laboratory's intercom system crackled to life, and a cold, detached voice announced that the Eclipse project was ready for testing. Kael's instincts kicked in, and they knew they had to act fast. They grabbed Lyra's arm, pulling her into a nearby alcove just as a team of heavily armed guards stormed past, heading for the central control room. "What are you doing here?" Kael demanded, their voice low and urgent. Lyra hesitated before answering, her words spilling out in a rush. "I was captured during the mission. Kael, they've been experimenting on me, trying to harness my abilities for their own gain. I had to escape, but I couldn't leave without stopping Eclipse. It's a monster, Kael, a machine that can manipulate people's thoughts and actions. If it falls into the wrong hands, it could destroy everything we hold dear." Kael's grip on Lyra's arm tightened as they processed the weight of her words. They had always known that the laboratory was involved in shady dealings, but this was something else entirely. The Eclipse project was a ticking time bomb, and they had to stop it before it was too late. But as they turned to make their move, Kael was confronted with a difficult choice: loyalty to their mission or justice for Lyra. The laboratory's security systems were designed to prevent exactly this kind of scenario, and Kael knew that taking down Eclipse would mean putting Lyra in harm's way. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridor, and Kael knew they had to act fast. They made their decision, and with a fierce cry, they launched themselves at the guards, taking them down with swift efficiency. Lyra joined the fight, her skills honed to perfection as they worked together to clear a path to the central control room. The air was thick with tension as they burst through the doors, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The room was a maze of consoles and machinery, with the Eclipse device looming large at its center. Kael's eyes locked onto the device, and with a fierce determination, they charged forward, ready to destroy it once and for all. But as they reached the device, they were confronted by the laboratory's ruthless director, who sneered at them with contempt. "You fools," he spat. "You think you can stop me? I have the power to control the world, and no one will stand in my way." The director's words were cut short as Kael and Lyra launched a fierce attack, taking down the guards and disabling the security systems in the chaos that followed. Kael managed to destroy the Eclipse device, but not before it emitted a blinding flash of light that sent them stumbling backward. As the light faded, Kael struggled to their feet, their eyes scanning the room for Lyra. She was standing by the door, a look of relief etched on her face. "We did it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But as they turned to leave, Kael was confronted with the consequences of their actions. The laboratory was in ruins, and the director lay dead at their feet. Kael felt a pang of guilt, but Lyra's words cut through the noise in their mind. "You did what was necessary, Kael. You stood up for what was right, even when it was hard." Kael's eyes met Lyra's, and in that moment, they knew that they had found their true purpose. They had discovered a new sense of identity. One that was forged in the fire of their courage and conviction. As they walked out of the laboratory, side by side, Kael knew that they had finally found redemption. And that nothing would ever be the same again.